Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the Healthy Home Show, and today I have with me Katherine Russell. Katherine is the CEO of John Lewis Build to Rent and also launching a new program in the new year around health and wellness called Reboot 2025. I can't believe we're at 2025 already, that's scary. Hi Katherine, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hello, lovely to be here and thank you for having me.
Not at all. So we always kind of cross paths quite a lot in the property sector and the build to rent sector, basically. And I wanted to start by asking you around your role as CEO of John Lewis Build to Rent, because obviously we can see things changing quite a lot within the property sector, basically around the increasing demand in health and well-being and the increased focus in sustainability. So I just wondered, in your projects around build to rent, how have you seen things develop over recent years, and what kind of things are you introducing basically into your models that are more focused around community-led spaces and also health and well-being?
Yeah, so great question to kick off with. I think that in terms of what we've been doing in the build to rent venture, we have started very much from a grassroots perspective of thinking about the sites from a placemaking perspective. So this isn't about us building essentially an island. It's about thinking about the context in which our sites sit, the communities in which they sit as well, and how to optimise that site, both from, I suppose, a real estate perspective, but also the broader community. And so we think about it in terms of how do we encompass what we're doing with the external community, but also the community that we're building within our build to rent schemes as well. And that kind of ranges, I suppose, from everything from design. So we worked with Oliver Heath with all of our designs around the concept of biophilic design. So how do you create that connection in terms of design with the outside world? So greenery, water, all of those elements. How do you make it feel like you're connected to nature? And in addition to that, we're taking our principles around I suppose our philosophy at the partnership is around partners who are essentially the people that work for the partnership, and how do we foster a sense of community within our workforce, but also with the community in which we work as well. And that's around, a lot of it's around about listening and understanding what's going on for people and curating an environment that facilitates that. So a lot of our design, but also the operational and management side of things, is all curated around those couple of pillars.
Yeah, amazing. Because I think John Lewis is one of the brands that just stands out to everyone as like a really trustworthy brand in the UK. I mean, your kind of motto of never knowingly undersold is like creates like a real trust within people. And how have you managed to kind of take that kind of ethos within your normal John Lewis build business and basically move that across to your build to rent business? Have you found it difficult, or have you found any resistance from clients or potential kind of customers in the transition that you're making?
I think when you look at the two markets, and as you described, John Lewis is well known for trust, loyalty and service. And you look at the market that we're going into from a build to rent perspective, it is the housing market, and within that it's the rental market, of which unfortunately has a really bad reputation. And the reality is that actually there's some really good landlords and build to rent operators and private rented operators trying to do a really good job. But what we're bringing to that is that, as you described, that sense of trust, brand and loyalty into that market, but with a brand that is very well known. So with that comes a level of expectation, I think, from both consumers, residents, our existing shoppers, and also ourselves in terms of what we want to deliver. But I think we're really, really well placed in terms of the skill set, the platform and the foundations that we've got within the core business, and translating them into this market has actually worked really well this far. So we now have 800 homes under management.
Wow.
All of which are in various 3 schemes across the country, so Leeds, Leicester and Birmingham. And we've had some amazing results in those schemes in terms of from when we took them over to where they are now. And the kind of output and results of that have been driven by 3 things. The first of which is service, so our approach to service. The second is communication. And the third is our approach to maintenance. So that kind of reinforces and validates, I suppose, the thought that John Lewis in this space as a trusted retailer with loyalty and all the right credentials and ethos, the ability to transpose and transfer those skills into this market actually does work. It's still early days for us, but I think the initial proof points are encouraging.
Yeah, fantastic. And it seems to me that John Lewis is also really well placed with your stores to be able to kind of cross over between the actual property and maybe the interiors that you're kind of providing for that property. Do you deliver your properties furnished or unfurnished?
So the schemes that we're operating at the moment are not necessarily our furniture, although we have started doing some refurbishments with our own products. The schemes that we develop ourselves will most definitely be John Lewis product, and it's a great opportunity for us to essentially showcase all the excellent products from a John Lewis perspective, the interiors as you've described, but also the kind of what I describe as the ecosystem of services that the partnership offers, from the John Lewis side of the business to the Waitrose side of the business to the financial services side of the business. Wow. And all the things that come with that.
Yeah, totally. I forgot about the financial services side of the business. That's really interesting. So yeah, you can definitely have kind of more of a holistic ecosystem. And are you finding that your customers in general are demanding more around health and well-being?
I would definitely say there's a heightened awareness of it in terms of people's understanding of it, how that kind of manifests itself in this climate and environment, I think is yet to be seen. I mean, people are essentially very cost conscious in terms of how they live. So I think it all depends in terms of how you define health and well-being. So people are very much looking at the bottom line for them. So, how much is it going to cost for me to rent this property? What are my utility bills going to be? How, and that kind of then links to the sustainability conversation. You know, if you can provide a sustainable energy solution that enables the residents to feel in control, and reduces their costs, then you're kind of on for a win-win. But that's not necessarily easy from the get-go.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. I mean, there's a bit of a housing crisis and a cost crisis at the moment. So it is, when I speak to developers or anybody else, it's all about profit still, unfortunately, before people. But I feel like we're getting there slowly. I was going to ask you, because obviously the work that I do is more based around the home itself and how we can kind of optimize our homes and lifestyles for well-being. So I just wondered where you saw your sector going on that front. Like, for example, do you feel that, I don't know, you may be doing this already, but do you feel like the homes of the future will come with inbuilt water filter systems already, top of the range air filtration systems? Obviously, we've got kind of issues coming down the pipe in the future with potentially thermal control, with climate change. So I just wondered whether you were able to implement any of these health strategies already, or whether you actually saw them in the pipeline.
I definitely think it's going to be an increasing demand, not just from residents, but investors potentially in the future as well, particularly as you start to see green credentials come forward. Are we there yet today? Probably not, because of, I think, where the market is. But that's not to say that I don't think people are most definitely looking at it. And actually, I think what's really interesting is the fact that the technology that's advancing today, actually there is a lot more financial benefits to be had with some of the sustainable solutions, both for the developer and for the end user as well. But there are some fascinating, I I think, programs and accreditations that are emerging. I know Euroclist have looked at some, it's the I think it's the accreditation, which I think is amazing. I'm a massive fan of it. And it's thinking about how all of those elements build up over time, and how I suppose developers will start looking at, I mean, things like air filtration, natural light. I mean, natural light for me is one of the biggest important things in terms of schemes, making sure people feel like they've got access to natural light. I think really, really important. But I think all of the other things, I think it's early days, but they will start to emerge, and people will most definitely, both investors, developers, and the end consumer and residents, will definitely start demanding it in time.
Yeah, I think so too. Also, it's interesting what you say about lighting, because actually I've noticed that I've had to kind of start thinking a lot more for clients around circadian lighting. They're suddenly becoming a lot more aware of the different kind of lighting choices that they can make in their home, and how, you know, exposure to light at different times of day can have a significant effect on our health, and obviously our exposure to technology. But yeah, you're right. I mean, one thing that's really helpful for me as a well-accredited professional is all the data that's coming out now from the International Well Building Institute around, you know, how much more you can demand cost-wise for a property that's been certified through the WELL certification process and has, you know, greener credentials, and is obviously putting the human health component like a bit more kind of central to the design, which is fascinating, because for ages it's been a bit of a hard sell when you're trying to say, no, it's going to cost all this money to put these strategies in place, but it's better for the human. And unfortunately, developers are sometimes like, well, yeah, but it's going to cost us too much money. But now we're really seeing that people are demanding it more, so they're paying more money for it, which is fantastic. But so I was going to ask you also, I can tell, like, what you're so passionate about health and well-being, and presumably not just within the built environment, but in kind of like your lifestyle in general. And therefore we're like basically launching Reboot 2025. Is this the first, I think this is the second year that you've run Reboot, is it?
So I'd say it's probably been running for about 4 years. First of all, started with just friends and family. This is probably the second year I've done it externally. So the first kind of official year I did it outside of friends and family was 3 years ago, and that was for my John Lewis partners.
Fun. And where does your passion for health and well-being come from? Have you like literally had it all your life, or was there kind of an event that made you focus a little bit more on health and well-being?
I can't say that it's always been front and center. You know, I actually used to be a very heavy smoker. I used to enjoy both ends of life, shall we say. But I think my passion for particularly Reboot is January, actually. I absolutely love Christmas. It's the time when you get all your friends and family connecting, and yeah, I love that feeling and that warmth of Christmas. And then you step into January, and it's like you kind of stepped off a cliff, and it's dull, it's cold, it's wet, it's dark. You kind of lost all of that warmth and sparkle of January. And despite my birthday being in January, I find it one of the hardest months, being honest. And so therefore I took it upon myself to, I suppose, I wanted to create something that was uplifting, both for myself and others. And so my mission, I suppose, for January is to make it actually one of the best months possible. And that's facilitated by this program called Reboot, I say 2025 this year. And it's in a bid to make January one of the best months ever, and kicking it off with some joy, energy and excitement.
Amazing. And so tell us a little bit about what Reboot's going to involve. Can anyone sign up for it, and how long is it going to run for?
Yeah. So Reboot starts on the 13th of January. It runs until the end of January, so it's approximately 3 weeks. We cover 7 topics, so I'm going to have to try and remember them all now, aren't I? So sleep, nutrition, hydration, meditation, steps, exercise, and celebrating small wins. So those are the topics we kind of cover. And the intent is, from my side of things, and disclaimer, I am not a professional, I'm just an enthusiastic health and wellbeing facilitator of what I hope is, motivational and inspiring content. So I'll provide a deep dive every day into one of those topics, sharing digestible content that will either be a podcast, a video, or a snapshot, trying to, stimulate some information and motivation around each of those topics, designed, as I say, to be kind of, you can digest it on your commute or within 10-15 minutes early in the morning. And the idea is that I suppose everybody who engages in it ideally has one target out of those 7 topics. So it might be, for me, I'm really focusing, and I do every year and I fail miserably, on getting more sleep or hydrate more. But you can choose from 1 to 7 targets if you want, or you can actually just choose not to do anything and just listen and be inspired by the content. And it's facilitated by WhatsApp. So every morning I will just do a quick message with some of that content, and for those in the partnership it's on Google Chat. And yeah, it's kind of completely up to you what you want to do with it, whether you want to take action on the back of it. The thing for me is, at the end of the day, I will share my own personal progress across those 7 targets, and I encourage others to do it as well, but you don't have to. It's an opportunity, I suppose, for me to feel accountable, which I think sometimes is really, really important in terms of, if you set a goal, you need to be accountable to it, and for me that works. It doesn't work for everyone. There's no pressure. There's nothing about perfectionism or anything like that. You just go with it and go with the flow, and you get out of it what you can. So yeah, it's hopefully it's, as I say, kicks January off in a positive and high energy way. In terms of this year, what's different, as you said, we've got some masterclasses, which I'm really excited about. So as I kind of said, I'm not a professional in this space at all, and I thought it was about time I brought in some professionals. So elevated the programme to include 3 masterclasses. The first one kicks off with Oliver Patrick. So he's recently featured on ITV. He's a physiologist. I'm glad I said that well. I struggle with words like that. And he'll be talking about, he's an expert in lifestyle management and all around how do you conserve energy and build stress resilience. Because if you think about us in everyday life, we're on this conveyor belt constantly, and we never stop. We never kind of give ourselves some time to recover. So he's going to be talking about all the what enables us to go perform better, but in the most efficient and effective way, and as I say, builds energy and stress resilience. Then we've got Leanne, who's worked in the NHS for the last 25 years, and she's going to be doing a session kind of on the theme of Nancy Klein, which is all about how do you provide the right environment to think. So again, in today's society, it's all go, go, go. We're always thinking about what next rather than being present and thinking about giving ourselves time to think. So her session is going to be on that. And then the third and final one is Jo Travers, who is the author of Low Fat Diets, and she's also the London nutritionist. And she is going to be talking to us about top tips for gut health, how to improve energy, mood, etc. So it's set to be a really good programme this year, and I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, amazing. That sounds fantastic. I was actually listening, I should say, to the podcast with Oliver Patrick earlier, actually. I think he was on the High Performance podcast. Yeah. And yeah, really interesting. I like his approach he takes quite a holistic approach, looks at kind of how to basically increase your energy, as you were saying, but also without having to need loads of kind of Fitbits and extra technology. So it's definitely kind of really easy for anyone to do from anywhere, which is great. So the masterclasses they'll be dropped into the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, so what I've asked everyone to do is to sign up via the SurveyMonkey, identify the masterclasses that they're interested in. Everyone can attend all three. It's completely free. So once I know that you want to sign up to it, I'll make sure that you've got the link, and then you're ready to roll.
Exciting! And remind us when the launch date's going to be. It's January the
13th. We start. The sign up program is open now. I'm aiming to shut it on the 10th of December, which gives me a bit of a window to start preparing for the program, so I know who's on and who's not.
Great, fab.
So yeah, it's in mobilisation phase now.
Cool, but we'll add a link in the show notes and everything. So if anyone's interested to potentially join for the next one, or if there's kind of like any last minute space or anything, then definitely if you're interested, then sign up via the link, and I'll make sure that I put that in the show notes. But I'm really excited for that. That's great. Brilliant. And yeah, there's nothing like a bit of your own accountability, is there, when you're kind of opening a challenge to to everyone else.
Exactly.
I was going to ask, do you think there's any particular challenges within the real estate sector and the built environment sector around health and well-being? I know that sometimes we hear particular statistics around, men in the construction industry and how they particularly suffer with mental health issues and not enough support in that sector. But I don't know, like as a leader in that area, do you think there's any particular challenges around mental or physical health within the construction and real estate sector that we should be paying particular attention to?
Yeah, I mean, I think you've highlighted one of the ones that struck me the most, which is the number of, unfortunately, suicides that happen in the construction industry. It's one of the highest, it is the highest, I think, out of the whole professional market, which is scary, really scary. And that struck me probably a couple of years ago. So I definitely think there's something to do there. There are some great organisations I know already out there trying to tackle that. But I think just generally I think what's great about the environment at the moment is everyone is a lot more open to this type of conversation. It's not the taboo hippie thing anymore. Actually, people recognise the importance of looking after yourself physically and mentally, on both your own performance, but also the impact that then has on those around you. And I think that's key for any work environment, whether it's real estate or not. I think when it comes to real estate, the beauty of our industry is that you're on anything from working on a site through to working in an office. And I think there are so many opportunities to improve the health and well-being across the whole sector. We're looking at what that might look like and how it might manifest itself for us. But I think there is definitely opportunity. I'm very passionate about it, as you can tell, and want to make a difference.
Yeah, and so I guess looking ahead, I mean, how do you see the build to rent sector particularly evolving to match the growing demand for more wellness focused living spaces? Do you see any further evolvement happening there, or do you think it's just literally trying to do the work that you're doing now? Makes sense? It's terrible English, sorry.
I think you've probably touched on it already, around a greater awareness of the accreditations that are surfacing. I think there'll be a greater demand for that. I think ultimately, whether it's build to rent or any form of development, quite frankly, I mean, I'm in build to rent now. My background is in mixed use, so I've done retail, distribution, office, etc. And I think the reality of real estate going forward, and given the cycles that we've been in, is it needs to be flexible. So it needs to be able to adapt to the changing needs of the environment. And sustainability, health and well-being are at the centre of all of those things as well, because real estate has a powerful role to play in terms of it's the facilitation of how people live, work and play ultimately. And so it plays a massive, massive role, I think. And so there's loads of opportunity. I think it will continue to evolve. And as I say, I think the things like accreditations of well and other things and demand will force us to change. And it's making sure that developers, investors are agile and have the ability to have that flexibility to adapt.
Yeah, I think it is looking pretty exciting going forward, actually. I'm liking the fact that also the International Wellbeing Institute are kind of moving out into different sectors. I think I saw recently they're moving into the co-working spaces, and then they've been running a kind of residential certification pilot basically for the whole of this year. So it's really nice to see things gathering pace. I think it's just difficult that it's landing at the moment in times when we're kind of suffering with a bit of a like lack of money crisis and a lack of housing crisis. So it's difficult to kind of get things moving as fast as we kind of want them to be.
I do think there is a opportunity with the next generation in terms of how we educate and influence, because they think about things very differently today. And one of my passions, I sit on the ULI exec board for the UK, and they've got an amazing programme around going into local schools and educating them on the role of real estate. And I think sustainability will play a huge part in shaping the thinking of that going forward. So I think there's a massive role to play in, I suppose, influencing and guiding the next generation into the built environment.
Yeah, fantastic. What does ULI stand for?
Urban Land Institute.
Oh.
It's kind of very much linked to my kind of core values around developing in a sustainable way. It's a very big and large organisation in the US. It's a global organisation. And we've got a strong following in the UK, but they've got some great initiatives and some great connections as well. And as I say, this the school programme, I think, is a great opportunity around educating the next generation.
Yeah, it's true. It is very exciting, actually. I think they seem to be a lot better instantly around sustainability and protecting the environment than we are. So yeah, then there's lots of kind of innovative like movements coming from them. So it would definitely be interesting to see what's going to happen. But so lastly, I wanted to ask you, going forward then into 2025, apart from your reboot challenge that we're all looking forward to, what personally are you looking to improve around your own health and well-being in 2025, apart from sleep, which I know you've mentioned? Is there any...
Damn, you've already...
Sorry. Or expand on sleep. Why sleep?
Because actually I'm doing all the research at the moment for the reboot program, so I'm just listening to loads and loads of podcasts, reading loads of stuff to get the best content. And sleep has just, I mean, I knew it was important. I mean, everyone knows sleep's important. You hear it, it's drummed into you from when you're younger. And I really, there's been some stats that have really shocked me, I think, in terms of the studies that have been done around how much sleep you get relative to how much information you're able to retain and how you then perform. So there's a recent study done on some students who actually alcohol was the other thing that kind of went into the study, and the impact of alcohol. So if you've got a test and you've had some alcohol the night or even 3 days before, your ability to retain information and then deploy it is reduced by 40%.
Wow.
It's like, oh my goodness, that is crazy.
Yeah.
And the impact that it has on your night's sleep and your quality of sleep is, I hadn't really appreciated the fundamental and powerful impact it really, really does have. And so that is most definitely something that I'm talking, because I don't get enough sleep. I'm one of these crazy people that gets up at 5 o'clock, exercises, and I don't go to bed early enough. So I have been trying to go to bed really early, but it's hard because I'm like everyone, look at my phone. I'm either doing work, catching up with friends, or scrolling. So yeah, that's one of my biggest targets. And yeah, the whole hydration thing, that's another challenge of mine. But I'd say one of the biggest things that is, which I like about the program as well, is the small wins and celebrating, like, not necessarily every single big thing, but actually recognizing the process that you go through to get there, and all those steps and those small little wins in helping you get there. And it just creates a much more positive and optimistic outlook. And I would say that's kind of my bias in any event. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it's all the tiny little habit changes that are making their difference on a daily basis, and also that then kind of have such a huge effect, like at the end of the year, for example, and that don't overwhelm you so much that you don't actually get started. So I think it's brilliant that you're starting this challenge in January, because like you, there's something about the new year that really kind of motivates me. Sometimes I'm like a month in and think, okay, that didn't quite happen like the start of the year how I wanted it to, but there's definitely intention there at the beginning of the year. So yeah, and I think everyone has the same thing. That's why there's so many gym memberships signed up for in the beginning of January, because everyone has really good motivation and intention at the end of the year. It's just whether it lasts. And so I think it's really important to sign up for programs like this, because accountability is so important. It's great to have your buddies go through a system with you and just kind of feel like you're in some kind of community, because I think especially this time of year, sometimes we can lack a bit of community, because a lot of people feel quite lonely at this time of year. The weather isn't so great, and so everyone's kind of retreating indoors a little bit. So I think it's great that you're setting up this program and kind of helping people come together as a community to improve their health and well-being at the same time. So thank you for that.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think that's a great summary of it.
I'm obviously going to add in some links in the show notes to the work that you're doing, both on the Build to Rent side for John Lewis and also on the Reboot 2025 program. But I really wanted to thank your time, Katherine, today, because I know you're a busy person, and it was great for you to share your kind of knowledge and your expertise within the area with us. But is there anything else that you wanted to add before we go?
I don't think so. I think regardless of whether you join Reboot or not, I suppose I just hope that you have a positive January.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Brilliant. Thanks. Bye.